Lopetegui has had, a miserable time at the London Stadium. 7 wins in 22 games, leaving the Hammers 14th in the table. In an official club statement, West Ham have said the following. In the first half of the 24-25 season, the first half of that season has not aligned with the club's ambitions, and the club has therefore taken action in line with its objectives. It's the worst kept secret, of course, in football, but finally the club confirmed Lopetegui's sacking this afternoon. Firstly, West Ham fans, you can come and have your say. 03717223344. We knew about it on Monday.
You know what? It sounds like Crook knew about it before Lopetegui did.
It sounds like he did, right? Well, he took training, not Crookie, Lopetegui that day. But we obviously knew. I say we, the football insiders. I know it's awful. There's nothing we can do about it. We knew about it on Monday.
It's bothering you, innit? It's really bothering you.
Sounds so bad. Let me take my headphones off. We knew about it on Monday.
Yep.
Why has it taken to just before we come on air on Wednesday at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
For them to break the news and confirm what everyone in football behind the scenes really knew?
It's a strange one. That tells me maybe not so much that they didn't know it was the right decision to sack Lopetegui, because to me it seems like they did. I look at West Ham's squad and I was one that thought before the season started they'd have a really good season with the signings they made, the players that are already there, and it just hasn't worked out. I think maybe there's a hold up in terms of maybe what direction do they go down. Potentially that could be an issue. Like maybe the board can't quite see eye to eye in terms of who's the next guy, the next candidate for the job. And I like football clubs, right, to have plans in place. So I like a football club to sack a manager, if that's the case, but know exactly where they want to go after that.
Yeah.
I hate when you see football clubs sack a manager, no plan, where they're scratching around. We'll put him in charge for a couple of weeks, or do you know what I mean? I hate that. I think if you're a football club, certainly nowadays when you have sporting directors, everyone's got to be aligned. I think and Brighton are probably the best at it. I know they don't really sack managers leave, but they are the best at it. The moment a manager leaves, they know from 2 years ago, a year before, this was coming in next. They've done their homework. I'd like to think that's why West Ham have gone, do you know what? We're not going to sack him yet, even though we all knew it was coming. But are we all 100% sure that, I don't know, Potter's the next guy for the job? Oh, we are? Okay, let's go. Do you know what I mean? Rather than scratching our heads going,
but that's what you want. You want a football fan. You want your club to look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
So when one goes, the new one comes in. My understanding is, this is not official, I've heard whispers, but my understanding is that Karen Brady was dealing with Potter coming in, and they approached him before the new year, and he was going to be in charge in the dugout to the end of the season. And of course now we get to the new year, January, and he didn't want just a 4 or 5 month deal. He wants a 2.5 year deal, there or thereabouts. David Sullivan, however, isn't necessarily, this is my understanding, this is not official, not necessarily convinced that Potter is the right appointment, has looked at Max Allegri and Fonseca as well. I mean, if that is true, again, that's my understanding, if that is true, as a football fan, that's not what you want to hear, is it? That two people on the board making those decisions don't agree with each other. Yeah,
and you're 100% right, because it's one of them where you go, okay, I understand the directions. I genuinely think Potter's got Premier League experience. He's done well in the Premier League. I think he's a really good coach. He almost, because he was at Östersund, so he's got that international experience in terms of managing elsewhere. I feel he's not like normal English coaches. Like, he's got that little bit of, you know what I mean? It's like a little bit different. Like the Brighton situation, they spent time at Swansea. I said he was at Östersund. But I think with Allegri, don't get me wrong, that what Allegri did at Juventus is nuts. Like the amount of trophies, you look at his CV, the amount of trophies he's won there is nuts, right? But I think they're just going for a name there. With Allegri, Max Allegri, that's a name. Yeah, he's a good coach. He's won things in Serie A. That's more name. But you have to look at the players you've got and the situation that you find yourselves in. Do you want to go with because when I think as well about Allegri, that's not long term. I don't look at Max Allegri and think, right, he's going to manage West Ham for the next 5 years.
They want it to be a quick fix.
Quick fix. I think with Potter, you go, right, everyone can slow themselves down now. Let's start to get things going. Because with their squad of players, they have got players in their squad that on their day could tear anyone apart. And we just haven't seen it often enough this season.
My concern would be if I was a West Ham fan and I'm hearing rumours of Potter, that because it's not been announced yet, it's not done yet. No. And if he's had chats with West Ham and they're like, yeah, we want you, and all of a sudden now the other owner, David Sullivan, has come out and said, well, hold on a minute, and you've got Everton waiting in the wing, seeing what's happening with their manager. Are you going to sign for a club where you think, well, hold on, behind the scenes...
Do you know what? As bad as West Ham have been, right, I don't think they're anywhere near as... I know West Ham, Everton have been taken over now, but with their situation where they are in the table and what is going on there, I know they're going into a new stadium. I'm like, no. I'd rather go to West Ham.
Yeah,
West Ham.
I get that.
Because I think West Ham have just... I think the team is there. The squad is there. I just don't think they've put it all together yet. We've seen flashes. Like, no one gave them a prayer when they went to St James's Park a couple of months back and won 2-0. But when they get it right, and their players come to the forefront and they play well, mate, they could give anyone a game, anybody. But we just haven't seen it often enough. And I think Potter is that guy to go, do you know what, let's get the best out of these players.
I think with West Ham, because of you've quite rightly pointed out, they've got, I can't do it, because they've got the squad in place,
Yep.
Whoever comes in, they'll expect results straight away, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a free season for the manager between now and the end of May.
No, it wouldn't suggest so, but Potter, as I said, Potter is the guy I think to take them forward, right? But they've got to give him time. They have to give him time. They can't just, it's not a quick fix. Do you know what I mean? You've invested too much money in that squad to just go, right, if he's not there, it doesn't do what we do by the end of the season, then we're going to find someone else. No, you might have a few teething problems because they're going to have to get the players out of this kind of routine that they've been playing under Lopetegui. But again, I'm a believer of Potter. I think we haven't seen the best of this West Ham squad yet, but it's coming. But I think they've made the right decision in Lopetegui in relieving him of his duties. I never felt it was a perfect fit anyway, but now looks like they've come full circle to the right appointment, hopefully, and hopefully they can start moving forward.
Well, let's get more of this now. Let's find out exactly who's taking over at West Ham and when with talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, the man who broke the news on Monday before anyone on the planet, probably the most relieved man on the planet as well, that's been broken today. Alex Crook joins us. Crookie.
Good evening, how are we?
We are good, how are you? How's your brow?
It's fine, actually. I've got to say, though, this has been one of the most bizarre managerial sackings that I've dealt with. I've never, in my career, had a scenario where I'm told on Monday that a manager is set to depart and then he takes training for the next 2 days. And I feel a little bit for Lopetegui. I don't think West Ham have handled this particularly well, but the king is dead. Long live the king, as they say. And who's coming in? Well, again, that's the worst kept secret in football. Graham Potter returning to the dugout at West Ham. I think he's at the stadium now doing various media interviews and posing for pictures. And from what I'm told, it'll be a 2.5-year contract with a break clause at the end of the season if certain criteria are not met. So it's sort of a happy medium, if you like, because I think initially West Ham only wanted to appoint Potter on a short-term contract. He wanted a longer commitment, and he seems to have got that.
Listen, before we talk about the appointment Potter, you made a very good point. You know, the decision was made on Monday. Everyone inside football knew, including talkSPORT broke the news via you, and it's taken till just before 4:00 on Wednesday. Why has it taken so long?
I think probably Graham Potter's reputation went before him, because you remember in the summer, he basically agreed to join Leicester. And then at the 11th hour, he asked for more time to mull over that decision. The owner wasn't willing to wait, and they ended up appointing Steve Cooper. So I think there was always a concern that maybe Potter once again would have a change of heart. So they wanted to make absolutely certain they had the new manager in place before officially relieving Lopetegui of his duties. And Potter isn't the only manager they've spoken to in recent days. You mentioned Paulo Fonseca. He certainly met with David Sullivan over the course of the weekend. So they were just covering themselves. But I think for me, what they should have done was told Lopetegui on Monday that he was fired and maybe put an interim in charge of training until such time as the new permanent manager was in place. As it is, it doesn't give Potter long to prepare, does he? Because they're playing on Friday night, live on talkSPORT at Villa in the FA Cup. So he's going to have one training session tomorrow before taking charge of the team.
Yeah, it's bizarre, Crookie. The whole taking training sessions before you know you're about to get sacked is very, very odd. But when you look at Graham Potter, listen, I personally believe he is the right man for the job. I think he gets a bit of a hard time with his time at Chelsea, but I think at that particular time, Chelsea was a bit of a basket case. No one quite knew what was going on. I think he did a great job at Brighton as well. I think genuinely they've got the perfect man for them to take them forward.
I agree. I think it'd be really harsh to judge Graham Potter just on the basis of underachieving at Chelsea, because you say it was a really difficult scenario that he was pitched into. But you look at what he did at Brighton, I think he set the foundations for what Roberto De Zerbi went on to achieve and took them into Europe. He's still really highly regarded there. If you speak to people like Paul Barber, the chief executive, he won't hear a bad word about Graham Potter. I think he will bring a more attractive brand of football. Certainly he did at Brighton and Swansea before that. And he'll be good at changing the culture at West Ham as well. What he also did at Brighton when he first came in was got rid of the deadwood. And I do think there are some players in that squad, maybe even players they signed as recently as this summer, that need to move on. I think he'll do that.
Crookie, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. We'll speak to you in a bit.
Cheers, guys. Have a good show.
There you go. You too, Alex Crook. Let's go to the phone lines. 0371722 3344. Scott joins us. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, hello, boys.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Pleased about the decision finally coming out.
Okay.
Yeah, Yeah, so what I wanted to ring up and say was, like, obviously, long-term West Ham fan, never want to leave Upton Park. I think a lot of our issues all stem from this owner. We've got a lot of false promises and stuff. Moyes, I'm not a Moyes fan at all, done well, won the trophy, but he should have gone after winning that trophy because we was always going to go downhill from there, the way he played, the way we got found out. You'll get the Moyes supporters come on and go on about him, etc. But we were awful under Moyes last year. We was conceding the same amount of goals.
Scott, is Moyes a West Ham legend?
Not for me, no, not for me. I just think he got us a trophy, but no, he's not a legend for me. He's not a John Lyle or Greenwood or something. Not for me. He's a manager that done well, but he was awful for 3/4 of the time we was there.
Well, won you a European trophy.
He stopped me going. Yeah, and I enjoyed that season. I enjoyed the season when we was COVID. We had no crowd. That was brilliant that season. Lingard and 4 hours breaking, and we were superb. But it didn't last. He's just so based on low block, 20% possession, and not just breaking away.
Hey, it's working for Nuno.
Square pegs around. But going on to Lopetegui, I mean, I don't normally get involved, but I actually did sign a petition to say don't give him the job. It was a little petition going on because he was never going to be. He was cheap as usual. Sullivan, he was free, he was cheap.
Yeah.
I don't think his record was great. He ain't done long jobs at other places. Premier League didn't do that great. Wolves fans didn't like him. And it was always going to end in defeat. But even now, I'm not sure about Potter. I mean, I'm going to give him. I'm glad he's coming in because he's been in Brighton and he's done well in the Premiership to a point. But I think the Premiership now, there's always 3 terrible teams. I don't think we're ever going to go down with the money we spend. I'd rather see us go for a young manager, like give Carrick a go, or even pay the money out and get Silver in. I wanted Silver a long while back, or the Bournemouth manager. We're bigger clubs than them. Let's try and move on. But we're going to Potter. I think it's a safe option.
No, see, I don't know if it's a safe option. I mean, obviously, by the sounds of it, Scott, they want nobody.
No, I think Potter's a brilliant coach. I really do.
Top coach.
I think he'll get the best out of the players. So. Good players as well.
They'll finish top 10 now.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.